Hey guys, it's Kyla at the MJC, and we are nearing the end of our part 2 journey. Today we're going to talk about the findings of fact and conclusions of law and judgment without minor children. But before we hop into that, as always, I just want to remind you guys that nothing in this video is intended to be legal advice. It is a video, so I can't tell you whether or not these are the right forms for you, whether it's in your best interest to ask for what you're asking for, whether a court will approve what you're asking for. So if you have any of those good questions, you should get some legal advice. You can get legal advice through the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics for free here in Milwaukee County. Or if you're not located in Milwaukee County, you can contact your clerk of court to find out what resources are available in your area. All right, so I am going to try and knock out this whole form in one video. It's 5 pages long, but I think I can do it. So you're going to start off by putting the county where the case is located. So we're going to put Milwaukee as ever. Here, as always, we want the caption, fancy lawyer word for this top part, to match the way the documents were filed originally. So if you filed jointly as joint petitioners, then this will be the person whose name was listed first. If you filed separately, and again, this is the part 1, if you filed that separately, then it will be whoever filed the part 1 here and the other person here. Wow, if only I could spell. All right, here, as you have in all of the other forms that we've been filling out, you'll check whether this is a divorce or a legal separation, and then you'll put in that case number. And I think now that we're reaching the end, you guys are pretty familiar with where that information can be found. But if you're just jumping in on this one, because this was the only one you're interested in, you should be able to find your case number. It's usually stamped in purple on that original petition. Here, if you are filling this out after a hearing, you can put the name of the court official that granted the judgment. But most commonly, you're not going to know this information, so you can typically leave it blank. You might put the location, if you know it's going to be in the courthouse, 901 North 9th Street, which is Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53233. And again, if you know which room it's going to be in, you can put that room as well. So you know if it's room 512 or whatever. If you're not sure about that, you can go ahead and leave that off. And then this form is really weird. It messes with people's heads a little bit. You're going to fill this out as if the hearing has already happened. Basically, you are writing down what you want the judge to order, and then they'll look at it, and if they agree that that'll be the order, they can sign off on it. So you're going to do the appearances as if you showed up in court. So right now it's a little bit weird because we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and so many of the hearings are happening either by Zoom or by phone. If you are doing this during the pandemic, what we are typically doing is if the court has told you your appearance will be by phone, check by phone. And then if you don't plan to have a lawyer represent you, you'll click was self-represented. If you don't know yet, and most of you before you file won't know if it's going to be by phone or by Zoom, we are leaving that blank. And so doing that. If you are watching this in the future and we're not in the middle of a pandemic anymore, then you'll want to check that you appeared in person. And again, indicate whether or not you plan to have an attorney with you. Same thing with the respondent. If you are filing jointly, then you know whether or not the respondent or joint petitioner B is going to be there. So hopefully, if you're filing jointly, you all will remember that you both need to appear. So you'll say, again, if you're doing this in pandemic times, appeared by phone if you know that it'll happen by phone, or blank if you're not sure if it'll be phone or Zoom or whatever, and then was self-represented. If you're doing this in non-pandemic times, then you're going to check appeared in person and was self-represented. Because unless you know for sure that someone else is going to appear on the record, you're going to check none, because it's generally speaking, if there aren't minor children, for most of especially the joints and things, no one else will appear on the record. We'll go down here. So you're going to just put, again, some information that we've already put elsewhere, but we're going to add it again. So you're going to indicate that this is a divorce. If you're getting divorced, if it's a legal separation, then you'll check legal separation. And we're going to enter the petitioner or joint petitioner A's information here. And we're going to put the address for that person. (206). You will put in their date of birth. And then you're going to put the gross income. And you want the gross income to match what was put on the financial disclosure. So we go back up here. We can see gross income for Jane was 4,114. And we're going to put that here. Then we're going to put in the respondent or joint petitioner B's information. You do need to put this even if you are contested. You'll still put that person's information. If you filed, you served by publication, you're going to put in the last known address for the other person. And we'll put in city and state here. 6. Put in the date of birth. And then you're going to put in the gross monthly income. And occasionally people will say, well, if we're contested and I don't know the gross monthly income, it's okay. You can go ahead and leave that blank. For those of you who are filing jointly, you will need to have the gross monthly for both of you. But since you both filled out a financial disclosure jointly, no big deal. So John was $35.77. So we're just going to put that there. So you've got all of that information. Another question we get sometimes is folks will say, well, what if I don't know the other person's birthday? That's one of those things that you'll want to try and track down. Do you have an old calendar that might have it in it? Do you have your marriage license, marriage certificate? Do you have a friend or a family member who maybe has a date stamped photo from a birthday party or something like that? So yeah. Here, for children, if you and your spouse had no children during your marriage, so not you don't have minor children, but you had no children, you'll check A. If you have adult children, so this is the without children paperwork, so hopefully you don't have minor children, but if you have adult children, so like John and Jane, we know, again, those of you who watched the part 1 videos with them, we know that they have one adult child. We would check B. And it's just referring people back to that petition where, remember, we said, you know, they have their child and his name and all of that information. Here you will indicate if either of the parties is currently pregnant. If not, you'll check A. If in our situation, Jane would be the most likely to be pregnant, but if either party, so you know, if you're for same-sex couples, you might have where it could be is either person currently pregnant. If one of the parties is, you're going to put the name. So if it, in our situation, Jane Doe, and then we would put who the dad is. So if John is the father, we'll check that box. If the other spouse isn't the parent, then that's one of those things where you may want to get some legal advice about what to do, because you can see this form doesn't really anticipate that situation, and that is because most likely you won't be able to get divorced, but we won't get into all of that. That is let me rephrase that, because I know somebody just had a panic attack. You won't be able to get divorced until after the child is born. And so again, you can get some legal advice about your situation and what all goes into that. But I'm assuming for most folks, neither party is currently pregnant, or again, if you're doing this jointly, that spouse is the father of that child. All right, so then we've got all this stuff. Again, you should read that, but we're going to skip it for now. Here you'll indicate whether there's any past due maintenance. If you remember all the way back when we worked on that marital settlement agreement, we talked about maintenance. And so here, since John and Jane said no maintenance was previously ordered on the findings of fact, we're going to say none. But if you selected any of these others, so if you selected B, C, D, E, or F, then you're instead going to check B here. And we usually don't end up using C, but I guess you could if you did D or E here, you could reiterate that information in C. All right. Last but not least, the conclusions of law and judgment. You'll select either divorce or legal separation, whichever you're doing in your situation. So John and Jane were getting divorced, so we're going to check divorce up here. If you would like your divorce to be effective as soon as possible, you can click on the date of the hearing. If you have some other date in mind, so you would like it to be on your anniversary or the first of the year or your ex's birthday or whatever, you can check here and you can put in some other date. Please note that the other date cannot be before your hearing. The hearing is the earliest it can be. And then legal separation, if you're doing that, you'll just do the same thing on these lines. All right, final orders. So basically, this is another one that people skip a lot because they say, oh yeah, this is for the court to figure out. Again, you're putting what you want the court to order at that final hearing. So if you have been doing this jointly with your spouse or stipulated, and you guys did a marital settlement agreement, you'll click this box here, and you're going to put the date that you signed that marital settlement agreement. If you haven't signed it yet, you can wait to put that date in for when you print it out and sign it. So we'll do, we'll say they signed it today. So that's if you guys are joint, that's all you need. If you are filling this out contested, so you're doing it on your own, you've been doing the proposed marital settlement, then you're going to check this box and you're going to put the date that you signed it. And then you'll check which one of these you are. So if you're the petitioner, you'll check this box. If you're the respondent, you'll check this box. It's basically you requesting that the court adopt your proposed marital settlement agreement. So yeah, so you've got that. And again, don't be confused because I know this video will be in the joint. If you guys are joint, you'll do like I did before. Check that box. Don't check these. Don't write in there. Write it up there. But this is just, this video will be used for both ways, so that's why I showed it both ways. Legal name restoration, you want this to match your marital settlement agreement, so all kinds of matching. So you can see if we go back here to our marital settlement agreement, we can look and see, again, Jane was requesting the right to go back to her former surname of Doe, so we're going to make that line up here, and it'll look exactly the same there. All kinds of wonderful statutory information that you should read and be familiar with. But that is all that you actually have to fill in this form. All right, thank you guys, as always, for watching. I hope that you found it helpful. If you have additional questions, you can come in and see us at the Milwaukee Justice Center, and we can point you to additional resources either in filling out the forms or to get legal advice if that's something that you need. I will be back with the last few documents in your Part 2. You guys are getting close now, but that's for another video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you all go out and represent yourselves well.